Okay, hello everyone. We have a new tournament here. It is a mono set tournament, so all the games you'll be seeing from this tournament has kingdoms selected from just one expansion in the Dominion series. So the players have a list of 8 expansions to choose from, and what we do is we pick one expansion that we do not want to play in our match. So my opponent for this match vetoed Hinterlands, and for this match I vetoed the base set, the original Dominion, because I've played too many base games and I'm sick of it now. That's my reasoning. There's no competitive reason for me picking base at all. So I'll put the link to the tournament down below if you want to have a closer look at the rules, or if this is something you're interested in following, you can follow the link below. Also, my opponent streamed this game, so I'll ask him for a link and put it below as well. You should check it out. Anyways, we start the match with the Dark Ages expansion, and there are a couple things that jump out to me here. One is rebuild, but there's shelters on the board, so I think that's gonna slow it down, obviously. And I think the mercenary can slow down rebuild enough as well. The reason because mercenary can prevent them from hitting 5, which will prevent them from buying further rebuild. So to play rebuild here, maybe you would go something like Ironmonger Silver. You would get a rebuild on turn 3, 4 potentially, but then hopefully after that the Urchin plus the mercenary could pin them below 5. Hopefully, that's the hope, right? So they'll be slow enough and then you could catch up and win. So I think the mercenaries can put in enough work, which is why I opened double Urchin. My opponent also opens double Urchin, going for the mercenaries as opposed to the rebuild. Excuse me. So here my Urchin doesn't find its friend, and it also doesn't find any money. So I only have $2 here, and I am gonna exchange my hovel for an estate for a couple of reasons. One, rebuild exists. So if for some reason I want to backpedal and choose rebuild now, I have the estate in my deck. And the second reason, potentially more useful, is the Ironmonger. Ironmonger gets some benefit as opposed to no benefit of the hovel. So silver for my opponent and 5 here. A couple choices come to mind, right? A third Urchin. That's usually how you want to go about these Urchin games. Urchin, Urchin. Then regardless of whether or not you get your mercenary, you buy a third Urchin, because you want to have 2 most of the time. But I go for the Mystic. Another consideration was Ironmonger, of course, to try to help line up the Urchins. I went for the Mystic right away. Why? Well, it's money. That's why. I went for it because it's 2 coin, and it can help me get to the 6 course on the board. And I will need money to do that. That's why I went for it. It could have been scary if my Urchins had missed a gain here. Luckily they didn't, but it could have been real scary, especially as my opponent was able to get their mercenary going. So I know this last card is copper, so easy pick for me there. So here 5 again. I could go for Ironmonger, I could go for the third Urchin, but I don't want to at this point because I already have the mercenary. If I didn't have the mercenary by now, I would have definitely gone for a third Urchin there. Instead of the Ironmonger or the Urchin, I go for another Mystic at this point. So, a little bit scary because you don't want your Mystic to be flat, right? You want to guess correctly so that you cycle as much as possible. The Ironmonger will get you through 2 cards all the time. The Mystic has some chance of getting you through 1 card, so maybe the second Mystic should have been an Ironmonger. I don't mind the first Mystic as much as I do the second Mystic. Anyway, my opponent attacks a pretty good hand for me here, and I get rid of the Mystic here because I don't want to guess wrong and then not be able to thin and attack my opponent. So I get rid of the Mystic, just going to cut my losses and just play the Mercenary alone. I had to get rid of the Necropolis there, which I didn't want to do immediately. I wanted that to be the last shelter I got rid of, but you have to do what you have to do, right? Because I am planning to pick up more terminals here. Hunting Grounds definitely I want. Ironmonger Hunting Grounds draw is excellent. and I do want a Mystic, not a Mystic, that's not terminal, an altar, which is what I'm gonna buy here. The last three cards of the deck were all distinct. I believe it was Copper, Overgrown Estate, and Urchin. I went for the Urchin for maximum cycling, of course. So, I mean, but it was 1 in 3 regardless of what I picked. I didn't want the money, didn't need the money. 7 is just as good as 6 here. So I'm going to pick the altar here over the hunting grounds. I can't really support the hunting grounds at this point anyway. I have just the one Ironmonger in the deck, and it has to hit an action for it to get plus action, which is not 100% or even like close to being reliable. Like 85% I would take it, but no, I don't think it's 85% either. So I do get attacked here again, but that's okay. I have the Forage on the Overgrown Estate, so I can still get some mileage out of this turn. Playing the Urchin first, just to see what I draw, and now the Forager second. I do find that my opponent trashed Silver last turn, so his Forager is worth more money. Excellent news for me. And Mystic last. Mystic last because now I have the most information possible about my deck, so I can make a more educated guess. I guess Copper, most plentiful. Turns out to be on top of the deck, which is lucky. Well, good for me. And yeah, second hunting grounds for me at this point, and I'm very happy with these hunting grounds. My opponent doesn't have any yet, and I really think you want at least one hunting grounds in your deck, or you want to be able to just have the +4 cards. That's gonna be extremely good. Um, because I want my deck to look like a lot of Mystics, right? And I assume that not all the Mystics are gonna guess properly, so I will need to draw a little bit just to be able to play all of them. So Ironmonger here shows me a Mercenary, which is great because I get a couple actions. Here I am thinking about triggering the Shuffle. It'll make a lot of good cards miss, but I decide to do it in the interest of trashing and attacking my opponent. And I draw into my Forager, which is great because I get to trash more cards, and I get to play my Altar, which picks up, what does my Altar pick up? An Ironmonger. And I am gonna buy another Hunting Grounds. Oh, this is my second Hunting Grounds, I apologize. The previous one was my first. So, yeah, that wasn't a terrible shuffle to trigger, I don't think. Because of how it turned out, of course. It could have been much worse. So, my opponent here plays the Urchin and uses their Altar at this point to get rid of a Hovel for a Mystic. And right, so one of the reasons the tournament organizer listed for playing a mono set tournament is that you'll be able to notice interactions and synergies within the expansion, and some of these synergies might be stronger within the expansion as opposed to with other cards from other expansions. So one of the things that I learned here is, or that I noticed, I didn't know this, I didn't see this from the beginning, is the Ironmonger Mystic exchange, which is real nice. Ironmonger almost always will let you know what the top card of the deck is, and Mystic will just pick it off for you, nice and easy. So here we are at the middle of the game of sorts, right? And here I'm just trying to figure out what is my strongest play, right? Like, what series of events can I execute at this point to make my deck as good as possible in the next turn. So I decide I don't need the Mercenary. It's done a lot of work for me, but I'm gonna run out of fuel to attack with, and two, the attack isn't really hitting my opponent that much at this point. So I get rid of it, no more Mercenary, and Altar gains me another Mystic. I'm overdrawing by a huge amount, so I want to add payload to the deck, and 8 and 2 buys, I go for 2 Ironmongers. So I go for 2 Ironmongers. Why? One, it is for stability, so that I don't, stall at some point, and also I want a lot of actions in my deck because I want to be able to play my Altar, gain something, and then play that thing that I gain right away. And I can only do that if I have a lot of actions, which is what the Ironmonger gives me. So here I should have used the Mystic to guess the Hunting Grounds, but I wanted to play the Ironmonger for reasons best known to myself. Now I'm going to use the Mystic Powers to get the Forager. And here I pick up a Beggar. So you probably saw my opponent take a Beggar a turn or two prior to this. And the reason is we are both going to run out of things to trash. Our Forager wants food, our Altar wants food. But I have just one copper. I could imagine he has very few things as well to trash. So I pick up the Beggar, it'll give me 3 things to trash. Plus a little bit of economy this turn. It gets me up to 11, which is enough for a couple mystics. Again, I don't need to play my Hunting Grounds. I'm massively overdrawn. I just need to see one with my Ironmonger, and I should be good to go. So because I'm overdrawing, I want to add payload to the deck. The best payload I think I could have added, well, maybe gold was better. I don't know. Maybe I could have gone Mystic Gold, but Mystic is not so much worse. So I went for Mystic there. Added as much payload as I thought I could have added at that point. And 8 for my opponent. They still have 2 coppers in the back to trash actually with the Mercenary. 8 won by is going to be Province. So first blood has been drawn by my opponent, so to speak. And now we're going to see what I can do from here. So making full use of this Ironmonger Mystic thing now. And here I am going to use the Altar to gain a Mystic, and then I will be able to draw up that Mystic immediately. So I do have to play the second Hunting Grounds here, which, I mean, that's completely fine, right? I don't need to liquidate it for points on this turn. And I don't play the Beggar a second time because I don't need to. I have 16 and 2 buys. Easy double Province. Easy double Province. Maybe next turn I will need to play the Beggar because I only have 1 copper left and 2 things that want food. So this turn, so this is why like I feel like my opponent should have picked up a Hunting Grounds, right? You need to draw a little bit in this kind of deck. So instead they don't have like that big of a turn and just able to get an Ironmonger and well, 2 Ironmongers I believe. So here I am going to draw my deck again, and so there's the only time the Ironmonger and Mystic thing doesn't work, right? When Ironmonger shows you a green card, it just draws the next one and you don't know what's on top of your deck, but you could definitely live with that. So here, like again, I'm trying to improve my middle and end game here, right? Like, so I want to make plays that are as safe as possible and doesn't give my opponent any chance at all of winning here. So here what I'm doing is just trying to make sure that I have enough money to double Province again and not wreck my deck too much. So what I do end up choosing to do is using the Altar here to gain a Scavenger. I think Scavenger is quite useful, and I'll draw the Scavenger, excuse me, via the Mystic. Play Scavenger, and I am also going to play the Beggar. Obviously, then the Forager to trash one of the coppers, and that causes my opponent to resign.